a sketch that I did to figure out how to get 4 full pieces out of a U-Haul box so that you use up the entire box. So you can see I outlined each section. This is a box fully cut open, just down one side, and then these are the large flaps. And then I colored in to show what it looks like when you actually cut. So you'll cut here, 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 and here. So that one tombstone doesn't actually go all the way up the side of the box. Half of that section goes to the other one so that you have wings to make a supporting base out of. And then I cut it and made a little draft like this that my dog helped chew apart. And then the mock-up looks like this, so that you can take your pieces, fold them back and behind, and then make a little supported stand. Here's the U-Haul large box, uncut. And then once you slice it open and spread out the sides, you can see how the pattern actually works out. These ones I've already cut and actually have already been painted, and there's my other dog. So you can see that some of them I carved off corners, and another one I did round, and I just drew a half circle part way up. You can freehand that as well. So that actually winds up being the only cardboard that's tossed out. And there you have it. Here's a set of 3 of them getting their first coat of paint. I just used an paint from the hardware store that was super discounted, so it was just a dud color and a cheap chip brush to just paint that on there. I did notice that as it dries they start to kind of curl. So I don't know, I might need to fix that with a support of some kind in the back, and we'll see what that turns into. These 3 pieces have the base coat dried, and then the Krylon textured paint sprayed on, and that's my dog, one of 2. And I don't know if you can see in the picture, but it does have a little bit of shine and texture to it. So I'm going to do a couple more coats, and hopefully they'll turn out really nice. Here is the next step. They've all been primed, and the one on the left here has got the textured spray paint. The one on the right, I just used a flat paint. I stopped using the textured because it was just more expensive, and I'm not really seeing a huge amount of difference, but it does take this next step of paint pretty nicely. So I've got a black dark gray color and a bright green and just a kitchen sponge that I've cut up. So I'm taking, it doesn't take a lot of paint to do this part, so a gallon and a pint is way too much, but a dribble of the black and some of the green on just a scrap of cardboard as a palette. Take the sponge and then start mixing them together. So just pull in some of the color, swirl it around, and if it's too bright, grab a little bit more of the black. You can test it out here, and that's not bad. So from there, I'm just going to start around the edges to kind of define the shape and just start patting. So this is supposed to be as though it's mold or lichen growing up on the stone. And again, you can see it doesn't take a whole lot of paint. The main thing you're trying to avoid is any sort of hard lines, because this stuff doesn't really grow in straight edges. So anywhere you see that the sponge left a little bit of a mark, you can just kind of pat more around it. So there is the beginning of that. It can actually go all the way into the rest of it. Don't go too heavy in the middle, because that's where we're going to paint the silly messages and the epitaphs. So you can go back, dip for more paint, blend in a little more black or more green. Different mixes of colors are always good because nature has lots of variety in it. So then moving on to the textured side, it just takes the paint a little bit differently. So if I just pat, a little heavy-handed there. And if you go too heavy, you can just kind of pat around it to blend it out. If you mash it down too hard, it's going to just turn into a big blob like that. And so you still want to pat and try to get something a little bit more interesting out of it. And just move up the edges. I would even take it around the entire edge because it actually helps the whole thing kind of stand out better. And then you can sort of come up with a quote-unquote natural growth pattern if you want it to, like, imagine that it's grown up. So you see there's some bright greens in here. I'm going to darken that up a little bit, and you can just go back over it and pat it out. And then the straight edges, just kind of keep going till they go away. And carry on like that. Here's the full set with the shading put on of the green and black, and you can see that it varies from one to the other. I was maybe a little bit rushed. I can always go back in with another coat, but it's gotten to be late in the month and I think I'm gonna be good. And then over here you can see how it stays standing. This is folded up with those tabs in the back. I hope there we go. So you can see that the wings are folded back, and then this is helping to support. So those are the tabs that you saw in the design, and I actually went ahead and added, these are just paint sticks that I chopped down so they would fit just behind, and I used wood glue to attach them so that the main part would stay standing. And I just put a brick in the back, so that can be gravel or just anything heavy to hold it all together. So the end result being this guy. Moving on to the next phase, I'm going to be putting in my first set of text. So this one is Crispy Bacon. So what I do is I start off by sketching out roughly where I want the letters, and for centering I try to figure out by counting the letters. So with 5 I drew the R first, all in pencil, and then spaced out evenly around that. So Chris, P, and then Bacon, lucky enough, is also 5. So I put the C here, Bea A, O, N. I'm going to be freehanding this. There, you can always sketch it really precisely if you want, but I'm fairly familiar with my own handwriting, so to speak. I'm actually going to refine this S now, just so I don't get too lost. And actually I want that a little higher. And the nice thing is I'm going to make it pretty, hopefully, fairly thick, and I may even try to put some serifs on there. So we'll see how that works. Get the B, which looks a little goofy if you don't have the top part large or smaller than the bottom. And then the C as well. Got a nice curve to that. Similar with the R. Set yourself a good roadmap. And so you can look at different fonts. Just type them up on a computer and try out different fonts and see what stands out to you of what you'd like to do. You can do bubble letters, you can do solid block letters. And that is the process. And the period, the A to start there. C as well. I'll bring it down a little bit from what I initially wrote so that it kind of matches the B and the A. And same with the O. Round that out a little more and straighten up the N so that'll look a little nicer there. Alright, so I've just got more of the black paint, or dark gray, or whatever it is. I found out last year by doing this that I actually liked smaller brushes better. I tried starting out with a big wide brush and it wasn't so successful. Because these wind up painting wider than you think. So we'll start with slightly wider of the two, and these are just, you know, Blick cheap brushes that I found. So over the years you just start to accumulate art supplies so you can do this kind of thing over and over again and get more and more stuff as you go. So let's see, let's start there. And I can't say as I'm a master calligrapher, but I know what I like to see in letter shapes. And so I'll just put a little hook on that. Make a nice vampire tooth, if you will. Of course, it has to come to a point, and now it looks like a G. Oh well. Doesn't need to be perfect. So let's take that way. And that way. And then across. And to do those little serifs, you can just make a line across and then connect it down. Make that a little bit. Straighter and sharper. Because I was working off of a giant gallon of paint, I went ahead and just chopped off a solo cup and used that as my working cup. There, that's not so bad. And just keep going. That's better. If you can do single strokes, and just think about how you're gonna like rotate the brush, then it gets less wiggly. Like that. And I honestly don't remember what a serif looks like at the bottom with an R, so we're just going to give it a little foot. Like that. So you can make it as weird or mixed as you want. There's no rules. And that. And you can see, maybe I don't know if you can see it, but I actually moved where that top line was because my pencil sketch was actually too high. So let's try, let's go that way. Yeah, that looks sufficiently vicious. So straight line down, above the corner. course, what's making this weird is I'm doing it with the camera over my shoulder, so I'm not leaning in quite as much as I would normally. So I might actually be like right on top of this. And already you can see the spacing, the kerning that I've done between the R and the I is a little off, but it'll be okay. It's a craft project. And I suspect, at least I hope, people are going to be laughing more than they are judging my kerning. I'll leave that for the internet to tease me about. But last year when I did this, I actually did a test run on scrap cardboard. So that may be worth doing so you can get a feel for how you write your letters. Because when you actually think about writing letters, it's much harder than just writing. Hey, there we go. So another little serif. That one's not as sharp. Not bad. Almost there, almost there. Moving on to bacon. I am really glad I sketched out that B better because I had a roadmap for getting the shape that I actually wanted. You can see by how I mushed the brush though that it made the bottom of the letter quite a bit lower than I had planned, so I'm going to adjust my other letters to be in the same place. And hopefully they don't creep down the board as I go. And the goal here too is it's going to be read from the middle of my yard from the sidewalk, so I'm not too worried about being super precise. Ooh, well, that C is really different than the first one, but there we go. Actually, I'll probably go back and make that other one a little beefier. Oh. Ooh, this is a very wide O. Yep, I totally should have practiced another round before I did this. But that's okay. Maybe? Yeah, why not? Well, serif the whole thing. That might look a little weird. Yeah, the proportions are a little strange. So there you have it. A beginner's crispy bacon. Although it looks like Kreap is pea bacon, but that's the price you pay for not practicing. And so I'm going to go through and do this with all the other messages I've got, and then they will be ready to put up in the yard. Okay, everybody, here's the big reveal. Mr. Doug Graves And then moving along and out, so the rest of them, we've got Rusty Bones, No Escape, Bea A, Myra Maines, Crispy Bacon, Izzy Dedd, and Still Alive. So moving all the bouldery rocks to hold these puppies up was a little more strenuous than I thought. And unfortunately, with the way that I did the supports in the back, it made them all kind of lean forward. So I wound up digging out the rock and kind of pushing it so that they would rest up. And as a happy bonus, it made it look like they're actually buried in the soil or stone or what have you. So there you are, my lovely graveyard for this year.